Okay, so we are going to move on now from math to talk a little bit about fire safety. And we are going to talk about mostly fire hazards in the house. Does anybody know what a fire hazard is? Good job, Sarah. Yes, a fire hazard is anything that could start a fire in the house. So we are going to do our KWL charts like we usually do for most lessons. And so you guys take out your journals and make the table KWL. And we are going to start, like we always do, with the K column with things that we know. So does anyone want to share with the class things that they already know about fires or more particular fire hazards? Yes, Lauren, good job. Fires do cause smoke, and since this isn't necessarily a fire hazard, it is still important, so we can write it down in our chart. Okay, does anyone know any fire hazards though? Yes, Allie, lighters can start a fire. So a lighter being left out where a child could reach it would start a fire. So that would be a fire hazard. So we can write that on our charts. Okay. Now I think we need at least one more fire hazard that we already know of. All right, Noah. That is a good one. Yes, so Noah said blankets and fabric catch on fire very easily. So that means they're flammable. So we should write that blankets and fabric catch on fire easily in the K column of our KWL table. Now, before we do the activity, what are some things that as a class we want to learn from this activity about fire hazards? Yes, Sarah? Yes, so the one thing that Sarah wants to know is if all fires have to start from lighters. Okay, so we'll find that out in today's activity. What is something else that we want to know as a class? All right, Michael, how to prevent fires. That is something that is very important to know. And I think we still need about what's one more thing. All right, Gunnar. Ways fire starts. So that kind of goes along with ways to prevent fires is figuring out ways fires can start. So yes, we will add that in things we want to know. So now that we have the K and W filled out of our KWL chart, we're going to move on to the activity. So who would like to pass out these papers from me? All right, Ron, come up here. I'm now going to pass one paper out to everybody. You guys may look at the papers, but I do not want anyone to draw yet because we will do that as a class. Okay, now that everyone has their paper, let's get started. So we have two houses. Label the first house, house 1, and the second house, house 2. So house 1 is going to be considered our safe house, and house 2 will be considered our not safe house. It's where all the fire hazards are. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare and contrast the two houses to figure out which situations in house 2 can cause fires and how we could prevent them like house 1 is doing. All right, so who can point out, we're going to be looking at the bedroom of house 2, something that a potential fire hazard. All right, Catalina? Yes. Everyone, I want you to circle the space heater. Catalina said that the space heater is plugged in and it is right next to the bed and right next to the curtains. And since like we stated in the K column of our chart, blankets and fabric catch on fire easily. So a space heater that is very close to the bed and very close to the fabric could make them both catch on fire. And now, since we found a fire hazard in house 2, let's take a look at the bedroom in house 1, and let's discuss the difference between the two and why house 1 is acting safely. Yes, and I just heard the correct answer. Tyler, would you like to share with the rest of the class? Correct. So if we want to circle this space heater is plugged in, but it is kept far away from the bed and far away from the curtains. So if we have a space heater in our home, what we want to do to make sure it is safe is keep it away from all fabrics. And another thing we should do is we should not be leaving our space heaters plugged in unattended. They should only be left on if we are in their presence. So now let's move on to the bathroom of house 2. Alright, Emily, what is one fire hazard that you see in the bathroom of house 2? Good job. It looks like the blow dryer and a space heater is in the bathroom, both plugged in with running water. So we can circle those two things. Does anybody know why this could be bad? No? Okay, well, I'll tell you guys anyway. Lucky day for you. Anything that is plugged in is electrical. So a blow dryer plugged in and a space heater plugged in next to running water could cause sparks, which could cause a fire. So what is house 1 doing that house 2 is not doing to prevent this from happening? Good job, Josh. House 1 has its blow dryer put away and unplugged when it is running water in the room. So from the bathrooms between house 1 and house 2, we learned that keeping electrical things put away and unplugged while there is running water is a safe thing to do to prevent sparks and fires from happening. So let's move on to the living room of house 2. Does anyone spot any fire hazards in house 2? Good job, Roger. House 2, it seems to have 5 different things plugged into one outlet, which can cause a surge of electric current, which, just like in the bathroom, could cause a spark. And like we just talked about, sparks can cause fires. So what's happening in house 1's living room that is not happening in house 2's living room to prevent fire from happening? Bob? Good job. Since there are only 2 outlets, there are only 2 things plugged in at a time. So to prevent a fire from happening, we know now that you should only plug the right amount of things into an outlet so we don't have an over surge of electrical current. Now this one might be a little bit more tricky, but does anyone see anything in the kitchen of house 2 that could be harmful in a fire or a fire hazard? Yes, Lucy. Yeah, you caught me. This isn't technically a fire hazard, but this is very harmful. In the kitchen of house 2, the smoke detector is not working, it's unplugged. So if one was sleeping or watching TV or something and they weren't paying attention, if the smoke detector is unplugged and it's not able to alarm someone when there's smoke in their house, they could get seriously injured. And good job, Lucy. In house 1, the smoke detector is working correctly. So here is our completed worksheet of all of the fire hazards in house 2 and the correct way to be doing it in house 1. So here's what is written on the board. Just zoomed in. So now let's finish off by completing in the L of our KWL column. So you guys can bring those back out onto your desks. So the 3 questions we had, we'll start with number 1. Do all fires start from lighters? Roger. No, they do not. You are correct. There are many ways, like we just saw in the activity, that could start a fire. And in fact, none of the reasons why there could have been a fire in house 2 were even from lighters. There are plenty of possibilities besides a lighter that could start a fire. So, what are some ways that a fire could start then besides a lighter? Sarah? Correct, yes. So, you named one, space heaters next to fabrics. That could cause a fire. Anyone know another one? Timmy? Good job. Anything electrical by running water that could cause a fire. And Sammy. Good job. Too many things plugged in could cause a fire. So our last question in the W column were how to prevent fires. Now, to prevent a fire, we would just do everything the house one did. They did the complete opposite of our ways to start a fire. So they kept their space heaters away from fabrics. They put their electric devices or electric tools away when they had running water, and they did not overplug anything into their outlets. So that completes our KWL chart. So tomorrow we will finish our fire safety lesson on the ways to escape your house if any of these fire hazards in house 2 were to actually cause a fire in your house. So make sure you guys come to class prepared tomorrow to get active and move around and learn how we would escape a fire in your house.